Welcome back to a brand new episode of Lit Sports Online presents Charm City Beat. Me and Jordan here for the first game of the Ravens season in 2020. After watching the Chiefs the other night play the Texans, I'm super excited to watch some Ravens football. Jordan, Cleveland is back in Baltimore, and we know what happened the last time. Why don't you? I'm gonna let you relive that moment for me.
Yeah, I mean, week 4 last year, the Browns piled up over 500 yards of offense. They, 40 points on the Ravens. And it seemed like two teams in totally different directions. And then the Ravens kind of used that loss to sort of leap towards what would have ended up being a 12-game win streak and the first seed in the playoffs. I mean, they really revamped their whole football team after last year's loss. And I think a lot of the offseason moves this year were all ultimately because of that game and then obviously what happened against Tennessee in the playoffs. But, yeah, they don't want that to happen again. I think it's the big game for the Ravens, and that it's a chance to kind of show that last year was, a one-time thing only, and they're not going to be losing to the Browns again at home this year.
Yeah, so the current trend with the Ravens seems to be get punched in the jaw, take a couple steps back and hit harder and just keep hitting. So if you look at Lamar Jackson, we'll just talk about him. That first season with him, they barely made it into the playoffs, but they did it. And then they got knocked out first. And then they came back the next season, blew out Miami, hit that roadblock against Kansas City, and, of course, the Browns at home. And then they just took off. So I think coming off that Titans loss, that's not out of their head. And remembering that the Browns are a rival that came into their house and beat the shit out of them, they're not going to let that slide. Like, this is going to be – I don't think it'll be a slaughter. I don't. I think it's going to be a good game because the Browns games typically are very close. Traditionally, the Browns games are close, especially not with the Ravens getting blown out. That's usually not how it happens. So I honestly think personally, with a new defense, a much more talented, in my opinion, offense, I for sure see them getting some revenge on that, though. But in saying that, let's talk about the new toys that we have. Let's talk about the defensive front seven. Holy crap, dude. Like, I mean, and maybe it's because we lived in the Joe Flacco era for so long, we're not used to seeing the team spend money like this and
Right.
get, younger players. I mean, of course, you got Calais Campbell, who's a veteran, but he's a leader we needed. But, I mean, they're younger. They're a much faster team overall, especially in that front seven. I'm excited, dude.
Yeah, with all the young pieces on offense, Lamar Jackson's on the contract for a while, Mark Andrews, Hollywood Brown, now J.K. Dobbins. You can go out and spend that cash on these defensive players. So they bring in a Derek Wolfe from Denver. They signed that Calais Campbell, an all-pro defensive end from the Jaguars. They draft a couple of really good linebackers, including Patrick Queen, who a lot of people have picked as their defensive rookie of the year. And then obviously I think the secondary in all world. So there's a lot to be excited about this defense, especially after what happened last year, getting punched in the mouth by Derrick Henry in that playoff game. They're like, it's not happening again. Now you've got to get through a defensive line in which they're putting Brandon Williams back at the nose tackle position. And, it's a serious 3-4 defense that you're going to see on Sunday against this Cleveland Browns offense that's coming in with the NFL rushing leader, I think, in Nick Chubb. And obviously Kareem Hunt, obviously, what he can do.
So you know what I do like about this defense? So typically with our ends, and I've always thought it was funny when you look at the Ravens' defensive ends, they're the bigger defensive tackles. The ends are typically, at least in this offense, more or less the outside linebacker. But no, we got true defensive ends that I think can get off the ball, long guys that are going to be able to get around those tackles, and free guys like Judon off the edge. I mean, I'm just excited for the simple fact that the Ravens pass rush, in theory, at least on paper, looks to be back.
Yeah, it's much better than last year. I think Malik Harrison, the linebacker, I don't think he's going to start opening day, but I think by midseason you're going to see that, the rookie out of Ohio State making a big impact as a downhill pass rusher. And Patrick Queen can play all over the place, and I think behind that defensive line, you're going to see him making all kinds of plays, and the Ravens trust him that he's going to fill in and be that next great linebacker like C.J. Mosley and Ray Lewis before him.
Yeah, I mean, he's got huge shoes to fill, but, I mean, if you watched LSU, if you watched that national championship game, you know what you're getting. You're getting a baller. You're getting what – I mean, I'm not going to overhype the kid because I haven't seen him play with the big boy pads on yet, but, I mean, he's looking to be that next homegrown middle linebacker, like you said. Maybe the next Ray Lewis. I'm hoping. Baltimore has missed that. We have missed that solidarity in that position. So I'm really excited to see what he can do. But I'm also excited to see what essentially another big pair of shoes to fill. I mean, shoes that were filled by Ed Reed and Earl Thomas. Of course, we know how he went out. Deshaun Elliott, man, that kid, he's got his work cut out for him, and I'm excited to see what he can do. I like him. I like what he's done, at least in the few times we've seen him play. And I mean, as long as he's healthy, I think we're good back there, man.
Health's the key. I think he's missed a bunch of time with various injuries. I mean, he was drafted in the 4th round a few years ago out of Texas, finally getting his chance to run with the big boys. And I guess he's done enough to convince the Ravens to play him in that prime position. And I think you're going to see the Ravens mix it up. You may not see him on the field as much as you think because they have an opportunity to maybe put 4 corners in the football field and have 1 safety up top. It's going to be very interesting at the time what the kind of defense they put on that field. But Deshaun Elliott certainly has the ability to be a really good ball player. And I think if he's as dependable as Chuck Clark is on the other side, I think the Ravens are good. They don't need a superstar. They just need somebody that's dependable. And
just someone that's not going to blow coverage.
Right.
Just someone that's not going to blow coverage and have, like, Pat Mahomes in Monday Night Football in a couple of weeks, just throwing bombs to Tyreek Hill. I mean, we don't need to see that. So, I mean, that's another episode. But on the other side of the ball, and of course, all eyes on number 8, Mark Ingram tells us Lamar Jackson's light years ahead of where he was. And you factor in the weapons he has, a healthy Hollywood Brown, J.K. Dobbins, who I think honestly will become our next big feature back. I have no doubts about that. I think this kid is going to be the future of our running game. But more importantly, on our quarterback, we've still got 2 years left of him on his rookie contract. I mean, the sky's the limit, and it's on a budget. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of scary to think that he's light years ahead of where he was last year when he became the second ever unanimous MVP because of the 1,200 rushing yards, the 30,000 passing yards, the 36 touchdown passes. I mean, if he's actually better than he was last year, I mean, you naturally think he's going to take a step back because of his superhuman numbers, but he may, if he does the same thing, watch out because his weapons are a little bit better. I think you got Miles Boykin another year in the system as a big body receiver. Hollywood Brown putting on 20 pounds of muscle, but he's still super fast, and now he's completely 100%. Mark Andrews taking that next step, especially with Hayden Hurst leaving. His role is probably expanding, scarily enough. The big question mark for me is who's replacing Marshall Yanda at right guard. But also they're giving it to a rookie who did a good job in preseason. So I think that's your first look is Phillips, the 4th round pick.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts there? But I think the offense set a bunch of records last year, and I don't think they're slowing down anytime soon, especially with the offensive coordinator returning.
Yeah, I think it's going to be definitely important who they put up front. And I mean, without a preseason, again, I remember watching actually Thursday Night Ball, and I remember saying to myself, it's like, without a preseason, you didn't get to see a lot of the younger guys go. They didn't get – I mean, of course, they got to work on their positions on their own, but when you're in a preseason game, I mean, that's about as close to the lights as you're going to get before, September. And that's usually where a lot of these rookies get a chance to sign. I'm not 100% sure who's going to replace Marshall Yanda because those are huge cleats to fill. I'll be paying very close attention to that in the next couple of weeks because I think it's going to be the next couple of weeks before that Monday night game where we really start to see how this offense, how this defense even is going to be ran.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable for a 14-2 team to have one real position battle, and that's right guard. It's insane to me how much talent they're bringing back to this football team, both coaching staff and players. And I mean, I saw some quote where they're pissed off and talented. That's really a deadly combination. Yeah,
I mean, here's the thing, and you and me have been watching Ravens football since '96, man. We were kids, I guess you could say back then, but we've been watching it pretty intently, and I've never seen a Ravens squad where we had this many people come back. I'm used to off seasons where I'm crying about somebody leaving, some big key piece and about 3 other guys leaving. We had nobody really leave. I'm not worried about Earl Thomas. When Earl Thomas got released, I was like, okay, good. Apparently he was a cancer in the locker room, so get him out. I think this is a Ravens team that's hungry. They were embarrassed, and that's the most important thing. They were embarrassed. Having the Titans, and again, this is no shot at the Titans. The Titans are a good team. They showed up, and they played football where the Ravens did not. So I think the Ravens are probably going to take out a lot of aggression on the Browns. But again, you're not talking about a Browns that's traditionally in the last, before 3 years ago, that was a walk all over team. This is a team that has a pretty solid defense. This is a defense that has seen tape on Lamar Jackson over and over and over again, and they know they can beat us. They at least they think they can beat us because they already have. So again, we're not talking about an unconfident Browns. We're talking about a Browns team that's going to come in here ready to whoop some ass. What do you think the Ravens, I guess their biggest, outside of Lamar Jackson, what is their biggest weapon right now?
I think their biggest weapon, I think it has to be the additions to that defensive line, just that whole group in general. I mean, if they, really push the pocket against Baker Mayfield, really contain, a really dynamic running attack in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, to me, that's the real X factor, because if they win the trenches battle, it's going to be over, because the Ravens are going to get their points. But if they keep the Browns from moving the football and keeping Lamar Jackson on the sideline, that's huge. To me, that's the X factor.
Yeah, I think as long as we can just get in that backfield, just getting men back there. And, I mean, we're talking every single drive. Just getting back there, getting nasty, getting in Baker Mayfield's face. Baker Mayfield is not going to be able to handle the pressure. I think if the pressure comes off too hard, he's going to crumble. And if he's crumbling, that means the rest of the team is going to fall apart around him.
You talk about a Browns team that new head coach, new offensive coordinator. They got a talented tight end in Hooper now back there, but it's a group that hasn't had consistency over the last few years. Stark difference is the Ravens, who bring everybody back after a team that went 14-2. So I'm intrigued to see. I think Browns are one of those teams that probably could have used a couple preseason tune-ups just to get the offensive gelling a little bit, just coordinator to player and player to player. And I mean, because they're going to have this game's going to open up, and the Browns are going to have to make to play some football real early, and I think it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, in years past, I'd be saying, oh, my goodness, I'm worried about Odell Beckham and whoever, just getting past our secondary. No, I'm not. I think our secondary can contend with the best of them this year. And I think, honestly, in years past, that was the biggest question, at least to me. I think they sewed it up. I think they really got the pass rush under control. And honestly, just me today, I don't see why the Ravens can't walk out with a pretty decent victory. What do you think the score is going to be, Jordan? Come on, let's start some predictions here. Let's go.
I thought about it for a little bit, and I think the Ravens will end up winning 30-17. I think I think the Browns do kind of get some points, and I can see it happening middle of the third quarter where they kind of get some momentum, and they're thinking, and at that point, I can see it being like 25-17. You're like, uh-oh. But the Ravens might, get a late score or pull away. The games are always usually close, to your point earlier, and I can see it happening this time, but it is a home game, even without the fans. It's season opener, and the Ravens traditionally do really well in season openers, especially when the teams are loaded.
Yeah, I'm going to go 20-38. I'm going to go 20-38. I think Justin Tucker gets a field goal because, as we found out in last year, our kickers and our punters were very undervalued for how amazing they are. But I think Justin Tucker gets his field goal. I think the Browns do get us at least one drive, but I think the Ravens are going to go off. I think there's just too many weapons to stop for the Ravens. So once you stop Mark Ingram, well, healthy legs, Gus Edwards can handle the power, while J.K. Dobbins and Justice can handle the speedier, more elusive running. So, I mean, and then you factor in where you have these four running backs. You also have to factor in Lamar Jackson, who runs probably better than any player in the NFL. He is literally one of the most athletic players in the NFL right now. And you have to account for 5 different runners, Hollywood Brown, the 2 rookie receivers, Miles Boykin, and Andrews. There's no way. There's no way. And John Harbaugh, we know him to be a great coach, and he literally built something out of nothing. And, I mean, there's just no way in hell that they're going to be able to stop us. So, I think the Ravens win very, very decisively. I think not decisively. Trying to think of the word. I think it's very clear that they're going to get a serious victory here, but, you never know. Any given Sunday. But, I don't know. Let's talk a little bit, though, because, again, this is new territory. We saw what the Ravens did with Mo. They gave him his own section. I think that was the most coolest thing. I have ever seen. Now, there are no fans there. Of course, I've been on Facebook. I've argued this, that some fan stadiums are going to have fans and others not. I don't understand that. For 1 minute, I just don't understand that. But that, I think we're going to have an episode probably next week talking about a little bit about that. But I just think I just love what they did with Mo. I think as much as he meant to Baltimore sports and definitely the community, giving him that section was that was beautiful, man.
It's very touching, and I was also kind of blown away by the end zone. You know, the MO in Baltimore spelled Mo, and they, really focused on that. And I think that, you're talking about a super fan, a kid who battled cancer throughout his entire life. I mean, and to pass away so suddenly this past year, I mean, he's we could be in for a special season because I think he's watching over the Ravens this year. I mean,
yeah, I think there's a lot the Ravens have to play for this year, and I mean, I think that's one of the most important ones right now. Plus, outside of fact of everything going on, just in the world right now, like I said, I'm glad football's back, especially the Ravens football. We got a lot more to cover, especially in the next week. We're going to do a recap video. We'll definitely be doing another preview video next week. So stay tuned. Is there anything else, Jordan, before I sign out, that you want to talk about, man?
I don't think so. I'm just super pumped about this game. It's been a long time coming, and it almost seemed like it was never going to happen right around June, and you're like seeing all the COVID. So just to have it back, some normalcy on a Sunday afternoon, I'm over the moon.
I'm over the moon, excited too, man. Eyes will be locked on. Football's back in Baltimore. It's the most exciting time of the year, as you know. So don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, like our page, follow us, share the video, whatever. Stay tuned for more. We got a lot more content coming for you. Take care.